Welcome back, Sam.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. Hi, everybody.
I have to say, and we have a kitty.
And here's Archie. Archie wants to say hi too. Okay.
Oh gosh, I have a black cat with gold eyes that I had to shut the door because I'm like, you are not.
Yeah, he can be a little bit of a Velcro kitty sometimes. So let's hope he settles down.
It's so fine. He is welcome to join. Congratulations on your latest book, The 15-Minute Method, The Surprisingly Simple Act of Getting It Done. And as I told you before I began recording, you're a very popular guest on this show. People have loved all the practical tools from your previous book. So I'm excited to dive into this one. And so tell me a little bit about the inspiration behind this. What were you like, okay, 15 minutes, let's go, let's do this?
Yeah. So I've been beating the drum on 15 minutes for a long time. It's even to get it done. And I certainly didn't invent that. Lots of people have talked about the value of that. But the thing that happened with this book is this word I kept hearing all the time about overwhelm. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so busy. I'm so overwhelmed. And I thought that's one of those big words that like sort of covers a lot of ground. And I think it's worthwhile to sort of get inside there a little bit and figure out, are we really overwhelmed? Are you really just underwhelmed? Sometimes we look at our list and we're like, this bores me to tears. Not interested in this. So I feel overwhelmed. And remembering that overwhelm is something that we do to ourselves. It's not something the world does to us. It's something we do to ourselves inside of our mind. And we know this because we look at people who are in chronically overwhelmed situations, people who were first responders, people who work in the ER. I was getting interviewed on TV. There's a broadcaster and she's, oh, right. Like when we're doing a breaking news story and we don't really know what's happening. I'm like, right. That would be an overwhelming situation, but she's not overwhelmed. She's just doing her job. The person in the ER is not overwhelmed. They're just doing their job. So it's not an outside thing. It's an inside thing. And one of the ways to overcome overwhelm is to chunk it out. Just try something for 15 minutes. Just see how it goes.
Yeah, and it's amazing what people can accomplish in 15 minutes a day, over a month or a year or a week even.
It's jaw-dropping. I mean, people are constantly astounded. I'm constantly astounded, but I have a thing that I sell, actually. You can see it on my website. It's called the Daily Practicum. And every weekday for 15 minutes at 12 noon Eastern, 9 Pacific, we get on a Zoom, wave hello, start the timer. 15 minutes later, timer goes off. Everybody looks up. I swear, Kimberly, with this post-orgasmic glow on their face. And they're like, oh my God, I did it. I made that phone call. I've been putting off that phone call for 6 weeks. Or, oh my God, I did it. I wrote my friend. She just lost her husband and I didn't know what to say. And but I finally just did it. I wrote her the note and it's stamped and it's ready to go. I spent 15 minutes drawing or doodling or sitting in the garden with the sun on my face. And the effect of these little tiny steps, it's exponential. I mean, it's amazing, the spillover effect. And it sort of makes sense intellectually. We're like, oh yeah, I get it. If I practiced ukulele every day for 15 minutes a day for a week or a month or 6 years or 66 years, yes, I would become a better ukulele player for sure. But somehow we feel like it doesn't really, like it's not going to work for us. You know? Or, no, Sam, my project's too big. The 15-minute thing would never work for me. I got to clean out the garage. That's 2 weekends. I can't do it in 15 minutes. To which I say, are you sure? Because first of all, what 2 weekends is that? Right? I mean, show me those 2 weekends. If you had 2 free weekends, I seriously doubt you'd want to spend them cleaning out the garage. If you even had them, which I don't think you do. But let's say you have to clean out the garage. So set your timer for 15 minutes, take a cup of something you like to drink out there, and first just spend the first 15 minutes just contemplating the garage. Just be with the garage. Observe the garage. And it may be that at minute 12, you go, wait a minute. Those 7 boxes aren't mine. Those belong to my cousin Jeffrey. Jeffrey, get your boxes out of here. And now we've cleared out a big section without having to do anything. And maybe the next day, you're another 15 minutes, you look in one of the Rubbermaid boxes and it says holiday stuff. And so you put a sign on it that says holiday and put it to the back because you only need that stuff once a year. And maybe the next day you take that broken bicycle and roll it out to the curb with a sign that says free broken bicycle, right? You really can make incredible progress even on things that seem really big and overwhelming. If you write for 15 minutes a day, you can get out about 200, 250 words. In 200 days, that's 50,000 words. That's a book. So where were you 200 days ago? And would you like to have a book right now?
Right. I mean, it's so powerful. And the thing, too, just as I hear you speaking, is how incredibly important this is because, right, if we have 15 minutes between a meeting and an appointment, it's like, what are we going to do? Probably going to scroll, right? Now, I
Mhm.
had a client just recently tell me I had 20 minutes between meetings. I took out my watercolor crayons and I did some art. And I was like, and she was like, it felt so good. And I was like, isn't it amazing how sometimes we think, oh, I need a lot of time to get into this project. And I know that would be ideal, but how much time do we scroll just because we have a little bit of time and we don't want to get into anything? But yet, if we use that 15 minutes, I mean, yes, we would have 50,000 words. That's just insane versus, I mean, likes on Instagram, right?
Exactly, and there's also this little sort of this little illusion of, "Oh, when I scroll, that's me time," or the time playing Candy Crush, that relaxes me. But does it really relax you? That doom scrolling that you do late at night, you're like, "I don't wanna go to sleep because 'cause I'm so mad that I've been so busy all day, so this is my me time." It's not really relaxing, it's not really restorative at all. Not the way 15 minutes of breathing would be, 15 minutes of walking. Every health and medical professional in the world will tell you that 15 minutes of moving your body in any way, shape, or form is gonna be great for you. Singing for 15 minutes, kitchen dancing, stretching, you name it. Just flying, tying flies, whatever it is you're into, but spending some time each day. I mean, obviously, we can use it for the things we have to do, the big projects we need to chunk down. Of course, it works for that. But my dream is really for people to be doing that 15 minutes on something that matters to them,
Mhm.
on something that lights you up, on something that you have a special interest in, a special creative gift for. Not necessarily artistic, right? Artistic and creative are two different things. Everyone is creative, not everyone is artistic. Let's just clarify that. Because sometimes everyone goes, "Oh, no, no, I'm not creative, I'm not creative," because they're not artistic. No, no, you are. If
Right.
you're a coder, you're artistic. If you're a parent, if you're a coder, you're
Yes.
creative. If you're a parent, you're creative. If you solved a
Yes.
problem differently than anybody else has, you are a creative genius. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Uh, and that's when that sense of, "Oh, I'll get to that later. I'll get everything done for everybody else first. And then my thing, my dream, the thing that's important to me doesn't even make it on the list. It just stays in the
Right.
drawer." And that's not good.
It's not good. How has your perspective on all of this? I mean, when I say this too, I mean productivity, right? Because you teach it, you write about it, it's been a big part of your creative and professional world. And how has it shifted in midlife? Have you noticed any changes? Because I think of brain fog. I think of like all the being sandwiched between people who have children or pets or what have you, and then caring for aging parents. So like, how has it changed for you over the years?
Yeah, that's an excellent point. Because first of all, I find I just don't have the drive and energy that I used to. I mean, I used to get up and think that I could just eat the world every day, and now I'm like, maybe not. Menopause is an ass kicker for sure, and yeah, I've got my 80-year-old mother living with me, I've got responsibilities, and I talk about this in the book. I've had long haul COVID for the last 2.5 years, so my get up and go got up and went, and so a lot of that book got written in 15-minute increments, and understanding that, yeah, you don't have to be a world beater in order to be creatively satisfied, in order to have an impact, in order to get big things done. You may not do it at the same speed you used to, you may not do it in the same way or style that you used to, but I think we also treasure it more. No, we have a better understanding of who we are and what we're here for, and this is always the deep underpinning of my work, but I rarely talk about it. A lot of what I do is driven by the fact that I'm acutely aware that we will die. We are not here forever. We do not have an unlimited amount of time in which to do our work. And we do not know when that endpoint is. And I know how much it matters to me that I have lithographs made by my grandmother, that I have my great-grandmother's recipes written out, that I have legacy items from women I look up to. And I wanna make sure that you make your legacy items too, that you do the work that's on your heart to do that only you can do. Anybody can go grocery shopping. Anybody can get the car fixed, like, but only you can do your work.
Yeah, it's so powerful, it's so important to keep that in mind, absolutely. And I think, like, whenever I turned 50 last year, I was like, "Oh, so I've been alive longer than I will be alive." I mean, this is basic math, of course, like, most people probably
Right?
know this, but some reason it just hit me. It's, "Oh, wow," because 'cause you're right. Now we're not eating the world. We're like, my joints ache. I'm a little slower. I can't find the words." It's just yeah, we're lucky if we can take a nice little nibble,
Right,
right?
and there is a certain advantage too. I mean, I hear women complain about being sort of invisible, and it is true. You do
Mm.
sort of turn a little bit invisible, once you cross 50. The media sort of starts to ignore you more. It's hard to get attention in stores. You're like, excuse me, does no one hear you?" But at the same time, I've enjoyed it 'cause, like, you can be sort of stealth, and really, yeah, take that time to honor yourself and your own inner voice.
Yeah, absolutely. What I'm curious for you, have you come up with any new passions or hobbies in midlife?
Again, spent so much time resting.
Had
It's
to.
been a little bit challenging to do stuff, and in some ways, that may be the real lesson of the last couple of years. I mean, I used whatever confusion I had about the connection between my worth and my doing, I think I have finally managed to unhook because my
Mm,
doing decreased to bare minimum, and that's been really interesting. I mean, I used to feel like I was only worthy because of all the things I did for other people, right? And otherwise, the things I always loved. I love to read. I love to swim in I love to be wet in any kind of water, all water all the time. And I'm really fortunate to have a lot of incredible friendships. So I spend a lot of time really making sure I maintain those friendships because it's easy to let people slip away, and these people I know are too precious. So I spend a lot of time keeping up with my friends.
yeah, yeah. It sounds like just a little shift in priorities a bit and somewhat forced, obviously, with
Yeah.
long COVID.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. See, I just had a thought and there it went. That's what we brain fog in action. But it's the loosening up of the
Exhibiting.
perfectionism too. Like I'm
Yes,
not
yes.
there was a time when that way I would have been thinking about it all day. Oh my God, I can't believe I lost my words when I was talking to Kimberly. Oh my God. And I'm like,
Right.
whatever, Trevor. Like, let's move
Totally.
on.
Another day, another word lost. It'll come to
Exactly.
me as I'm falling asleep, right?
Exactly. Oh, I know what I meant to say.
Totally. You know what I love here too, and I just have my notes to the right, which is what I'm looking over, but and you touched on this a little bit at the beginning, but overwhelm being an outside, we think of it as an outside problem. Oh, I have all this stuff on my plate. Everyone wants something from me, and yet it really is an inside problem. And so, can you talk a little bit about that? Because you also talk about busyness being a narcotic, right? So, speak a little to that because I'm sure a lot of listeners can relate to this.
Yeah, it's like I said at the beginning, we think of it as an outside problem, but again, when we look at over people who are in overwhelming circumstances, they're not overwhelmed. So, what is it that you are allowing to swamp you? It's a big excuse, and it's a word I just hear all the time, and I really encourage people to just drop it. Just stop saying it. You don't get bonus points for being overwhelmed. You don't get bonus points for being busy. How are you? Oh my God, I'm busy. Oh my God, I'm so busy. There's this international game of I'm so busy poker going on. Oh, you think you're busy? I'm so busy. It's like, okay, everybody's busy. Everybody gets the same 24 hours a day. Drop it. What's more interesting than busy? How are you? Fulfilled. How are you? Fascinated. How are you? Spacey. Be real about how you are. and be real about your choices. I mean, we get to choose all of the circumstances of our lives. Sometimes things happen to us, and I'm not a fan of that, "Oh, everything happens for a reason." Mm, I'm not so sure. I know that everything happens,
Right.
and I know that we get to decide what the reason is.
Mhm, mhm.
So, to be able to say, "Wow, I seem to be choosing a lot of little meaningless tasks that stack up, and at the end of the day, don't really feel satisfying to me. I seem to not be choosing the things that I know will light me up and bring me joy. What's that about? And could I make a choice just for 15 minutes?" I'm not saying renovate your whole world. I mean, you might, but can you allow yourself 15 minutes to just do something that lights your soul up? Because here's what I really notice is the spillover effect, right? When you spend that 15 minutes, and I really recommend doing it early in the day because you know how it is, the rest of the day just gets away from you, but do what works for you, is when you spend just that 15 minutes writing poetry, doing your needlework, what even clutter clearing, your even going through your closet and clearing out this much of your closet, you sort of get that light in your eyes. It's the same like when you work out in the morning or have sex in the morning and you sort of spend all day being like, "That's right. I'm amazing. How are you?" But you're calmer, you're less reactive, you're less stressed out. Like, it's a beautiful thing. I have a dream. I have a dream for this book. I have a dream for the world. I want not oh, yes, I want everybody. I want 1,000,000 people worldwide spending 15 minutes a day on something that matters to them. But what I really want is for businesses to enact it as a policy.
Mhm.
Because I keep reading the statistic about how 77% of people are disengaged at work. 77%? That's a lot. I mean, if somebody took away 77% of your money, you would notice. Now, if you lost 77% of your friends, that's a big percentage. So that seems to me to be a very expensive problem. And it seems to me to be a very inexpensive solution to say, "Hey, you know what? Between 9 and 9:15, that's your time. Or between 4:15 and 4:30, that's your time to do your thing for you. Don't make your dentist appointment. Don't check your email box. Just do something that inspires you." I think that just making that gesture to say, "Hey, we noticed that you're a person with maybe dreams and ambitions outside of this building." I think that would be very beautiful. But more than that, if then you get in the meeting and people say, "Hi, I'm," instead of just saying, "Hi, I'm Sam from sales," to say, "Hi, I'm Sam from sales, and I spent my 15 minutes working on my needlepoint project for my goddaughter that was meant for her when she was born, and now she's graduating for high school, so I'm really excited to get that done." Right? Now I get to share a little bit about who I am, and maybe down the table, there's Debbie from accounting, whom I've never gotten along with Debbie. I don't like Debbie. But Debbie says, "Hi, I'm Debbie from accounting, and I spent my 15 minutes doing cross stitch." Now we're needlework buddies. Now we can talk embroidery floss. Now we've got something in common. And you know what we call that? Engagement.
Mm.
People will do way more for each other than they will for money or for a job. And so to let people bring their whole self, or at least some of their whole self, to work, I think could be really transformative. So I want everybody to try it and then call me and let me know how it goes.
Right,
Email me.
right. Let me know. Hit
Let
me
me
up.
know.
Well,
And
what
there's
about
studies
go
oh, there's
ahead.
just so there's studies that I read a study one time that said that if you let people say something about themselves, who they are personally at the beginning of a meeting, you'll have a better meeting. They'll
Mm,
have better ideas, they'll have more interesting ideas, they'll be more creative, they'll be more upbeat because they have reminded themselves of the fullness of their experience. So they're not just bringing their
versus
skill set, they're bringing themselves.
exactly, versus I'm working on this memo. Do you know what I
Right,
mean? Right, yeah.
exactly.
No, it's huge. And talk a little bit about zone of genius, because I think for some people it can be hard to figure out like, what is my passion? What do I want to bring? What would I do for these 15 minutes? How
Yeah.
do you help people, especially in midlife, tap into this zone of genius, especially if they've spent so much of their adult life caregiving, right? raising children or caring for others in some way. And now it's, oh, the spotlight could be on me, but I don't know what to do with it.
Right, right. And I have to say it is a little bit of a mean trick that the culture plays on us that says that the only thing that matters is the thing you do for other people. Like, that's a little cruel. The right back. The Zone of Genius was, first of all, tip of the hat to Gay and Katie Hendricks and their incredible work on Zones of Genius. If you haven't read Leap of The Big Leap, do that. But your zone, and you're right, your zone of genius can be very difficult to perceive because it's so native and natural to you, you don't even notice it. You think, oh, everybody's this way, but they're not. So I want you to think of the thing that you've just always been super interested in. You've just always had a natural affinity for it. You've always been good at it. It's always your friends and family might be like, "I'm sorry, you're driving how far to go to an exhibition on what? Like, why would you do that?" You're like, "No, no, it's fun for me." And maybe your zone of genius is a little more interpersonal. Maybe it's you're the person who always knows what to say to make somebody else feel better. You're the person who knows how to give an amazing compliment. You're the person who knows how to give a gift that is really meaningful. I have everything that's cool in my house is a gift from my friend Margaret. Anytime somebody goes, that's neat," I'm like, "Yeah, that's from Margaret." That's right. Like her zone, one of her zones of genius is just finding that amazing thing that's going to be so meaningful. So, yeah, look for those. And sometimes people decide to build a business off of those things or make a bigger deal out of their hobbies. But other times, again, even just like I say, even just 15 minutes spent in that zone can really help you out. Maybe it's animal communication. Whatever it is for you, that thing that again you were just great at as a kid and still love. And maybe no one else in your family loves it. That's the other, it makes you a little bit of an anomaly in your family. That's another good way to look for it.
Yeah. I do think too, it's so important in midlife to look back on what did I love as a child? Like
Fun,
I loved ballet. I did a ton of ballet and I've recently gotten back into ballet pretty intensely.
fun,
And it
fun.
is, right? Yeah. And it's just fun to think, oh, hey, that's just something kids do. It's no, no, actually, we can do this our whole lives. So, what are
Right.
some things that for listeners that's just, oh, I loved this when I was younger, or I used to dabble in this and I haven't picked it up in years, but I miss it, right?
Yeah,
So, yeah.
yeah, and we have a real opportunity, and especially as we age, especially as our day-to-day responsibilities start to lessen, as people head into
Mhm.
retirement, as the kids leave the house, you've got a little bit more time. This is a great opportunity to dive back into those things without that pressure of, "Oh my god, I have to be a success at this. I have to be the best one in the room." You can just
Right.
do it for fun. That's okay.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. Yeah, it's quite liberating. One
Yes.
of the things you talk about in the book, though, too, Sam, and I have over here that I wanted to touch on is feeling stuck in life, which I do think a lot of people, particularly in midlife, can start to feel a little stuck or have I wasted my life?
Mm.
What's ahead for me? I'm not like I don't really have much to look forward to. How do you help people unravel that story?
Yeah, and that's an easy trap to fall into, isn't it? We get into this compare and despair thing. It feels like everybody else is doing so great and we're not, and or we've made our choices, we've made our bed, now we gotta lie in it. If I change things, is anything really gonna be any better? There's a lot of internal mind games that contribute to that feeling of stuckness. And and what I want you all to notice is, first of all, you're doing great. You're doing amazing. You are a successful person. People love you. Look, you look great. You're doing it. You're not nearly as behind, which is not really a thing, but you're not doing as poorly as you think you are, right? And the fact that you still have dreams and desires for yourself, the fact that you still want something more is another great sign. And sometimes that sign shows up as jealousy. It's not a pretty emotion. It's not our favorite one to talk about. But if you find yourself looking at other people or looking at magazines or stories and being like, "Ugh, I want that." Good. That is a strong signal about your own desire, right? And if you feel stuck, but you don't know what your desire is, you don't know what your zone of genius is, you just feel completely mired, then start taking 15 minutes to experiment. Write down 30 things that you might want to try and try one a day for a week, or pick one and say, okay, I'm going to do this for 5 days and see how it feels. Then I'm going to pick another thing for 5 days and see how it feels. And just start experimenting with yourself. Start putting yourself into new situations. Start challenging yourself to redefine yourself, not as somebody who's stuck, but as somebody who is constantly in a state of continuous improvement, who is constantly looking for something new and engaging. You have the power. You may not have the power to change everything in your life, but you definitely have 15 minutes worth of power. And it can be amazing how much, again, spending it in prayer and meditation, spending it reaching out to the young people in your life and strengthening your connection with them. I text my niece and nephew all the time. I'm sure it annoys them to no end, but it's how they communicate. So it's how I communicate with them. I send them silly things. Yeah, you have more choice and more power than you think you do. And even if you just stare at a blank piece of paper for 15 minutes, 15 minutes of enforced boredom never hurt a person. And when was the last time you spent 15 minutes staring at a blank piece of paper without reaching for your phone?
Yeah. We're so blessed to know a world before that, right? It's, oh my God, like we sat in vehicles and looked out windows. I mean, as children, right? As passengers. And that's just what we did for hours on a road trip,
I
right?
say that all the time.
Oh, you
I'm very
do?
concerned about kids who grew up without long car trips. Like, we made a fort in the way back of the Volvo,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Just those hours and hours of just nothingness, of just space inside
yes,
of your brain. It's remarkable what the effect I think it has a beautiful effect on a person. So, yeah, yeah, I think it's really worth cultivating to give yourself that open space, that white, like in graphic design, they call it white space, right?
yes.
Little areas so that you don't have to be quite so pressured all the time. Not everything has to be filled to the brim, you know?
Right, right. Absolutely. Because it's hard to think without a little bit of space, obviously, right?
And the in my world, the antidote to anxiety is action. And there's study after study after study that says that when we do things with our hands, we feel better. So, too much I think one of the things about overwhelm too is sometimes it's too much input and not enough output,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
So we're watching all the streamings, we're watching all the TikToks, we're watching all the Netflix, we're reading all the news things. Like, okay, stay as connected as you want, but spend 15 minutes making something, doing something, creating something that's unique to you. One of the things I recommend doing, and this is such a fun exercise, and I know maybe you'll do it, and most people never do this, but it's really worth trying. Take 90 seconds, take a piece of scrap paper and a pen, anything, and just set the timer for 90 seconds and just doodle how you're feeling right now, or how you're feeling about some situation that you feel stuck in, or something you're angry about or jealous of, or whatever it is. Just there's not enough money, you're scared of feeling broke. Like, just doodle what that feels like. Just stick figures, and it's not art, nobody's gonna ever see it. Just stick figures and things. And then let that doodle speak to you. Wow, that's me pinned under a giant rock. Yeah, I do feel that way. That's a heavy feeling. Okay, good to notice. And then maybe turn it over or get a new piece and spend 90 seconds doodling how you would like it to feel. Oh, look, and here the rock has turned into a balloon. That seems like more fun. And now I can just feel that little emotional shift, right? Because feelings just want to be felt. That's all feelings want, is to be felt. So when you let a feeling know that it's been felt by, say, making a picture of it, it can get promoted and get a better job. And then you've given
Feels,
yourself
yeah.
some new information. You've given yourself
Mhm.
just a little bit of it's to call it art therapy is a total overstatement, but it's a great way for you to communicate to you. Again, if you're feeling that I'm stuck and I don't know why, I want something and I don't know what it is, well, start with this kind of inquiry because sometimes nonverbal depictions can tell you more than you know that.
Absolutely. That's where it's like also getting into your body, somatically of like, how does that feel? Right.
Yes.
Beyond just anger, right? It's like, where do you feel anger? Right. So, yeah,
Right.
so, so important to have these different gateways in rather than just thinking.
I just heard somewhere, I thought this was so good, that thinking is a form of dissociation,
Ah, interesting.
right? "Oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Okay, I have to think about it. I'm not sure if I wanna do that, I have to think about it. I'm gonna take myself out of this situation, I'm gonna remove myself and my feelings and all the information I'm getting here, and I'm gonna move it up to this from here up, instead of what is my body telling me? What is my
Right.
soul telling me? What is my
Mhm.
voice telling me?"
Yeah. Interesting. That is really fascinating about
Isn't
that
it?
being associated with dissociation. Yeah. So, my last question for you, Miss Sam, before we close is of course, the name of this podcast is Tranquility du Jour, right? So, this idea of how do we find tranquility in the everyday? But of course, now really catered along the idea of everyday and midlife in particular. So, I'm curious for you, how are you finding tranquility in the everyday, dealing with long COVID, having your 80-year old mother at home, and just trying to do all the things that come with being an adult, a
Yeah.
human in midlife?
Yes. I will say, one thing that has really helped me is lowering my standards by quite a lot. I just no longer expect the house to be sparkling clean at every moment. I don't expect myself to be dressed perfectly for every occasion. I haven't had my hair done in I don't even know how long. I'm like, "I'll get to it. It'll happen, but in the meantime, I'm not gonna hide." So, and I know I can hear the perfectionists and the A students and the eldest daughter, "I can't do that." But really, just look around and say, like, "Where could I just get a C? Where could I just do the bare minimum and have that be okay?" The other thing, but where I spend my 15 minutes every day is I do it before I even roll over in bed. I have my little journal, and every morning, either I write a letter to God or God writes a letter to me, depending on who needs to say what to whom. And sometimes I'm writing the same thing over and over again. Sometimes I write something really poetic and lovely. Sometimes I'm just bitching and moaning. It just depends on the day. But I find that when I do that, and again, particularly coming right out of sleep, when I'm still in that sort of half dream state, it's really a valuable moment for me to, again, be able to hear that inside voice and nurture myself a little bit and find that calm and remind myself that God is God and I am not God. and and that, again, that everything is working out. It's gonna be okay.
Beautiful.
It may not be what we
Yeah.
planned, it may not be what we
Right.
want, but it's gonna be
Right.
okay, you
Right.
know? And
Yes,
we have so
exactly.
much to be grateful for.
Yes, absolutely. And I
Mm.
really appreciate what you've shared. I think that's a really important piece of just recognizing, yeah, we don't have what we used to have. And maybe too, we've shifted our priorities, right? It's like, is a C good enough? Yeah, C is pretty good.
Yeah,
It's passing.
yeah. And how much time and energy did I waste as a younger person torturing myself over every little thing? There's a thing called spotlight syndrome. I talk about it in the book too, which is that thing of, like, we make a little gaffe. I forgot my words earlier, and we think, "Oh my god, everybody's looking at me, everybody notices, I'm so mortified, I can never show my face again." When in fact, nobody's really paying attention to you. They're way too busy thinking about themselves. And as we get older, we recognize that. We get a little more forgiving, I think, of our hopefully, of ourselves and other people, and also really understanding that people just are who they are, and they're not gonna change. Not for you or love or anybody, and neither are you.
Right. Right. Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Sam, for coming back to the show. It's such a treat to see you again, and congrats on this amazing new book.
Thank you so much. I'm really pleased with that book, I have to say. It was a rough I wasn't loving it when I was writing it, but
Mm,
now that it's done, I really love it. So this is for all the writers
yeah.
out there. You don't have to be in love with your material. Just create it. Just write it.
Keep going.
Keep
Yes.
going.
Yeah. It
Yes.
turned out well, the final product. The process may not have been lovely, but the product is good.
Exactly, and a reminder that you are a terrible judge of your own work.
Right. Yes.
I'm a terrible judge of my own work. You are everyone is a terrible judge of their own work. So it's not your job to judge your work. It's
Right.
just your job to do your work.
Exactly. That's the whole Martha Graham quote, right?
Right. There's a quickening.
Yes.
There is a
Yes.
life force. That's right.
Yeah. Again, so much for being here today. It's such a treat.
My pleasure. Me and Archie are both happy.